Halloween Ends is partially influenced by an unexpected 80s comedy. While director David Gordon Green prepares to conclude his trilogy of Halloween films, he has revealed a surprising source of inspiration for his closing chapter, Halloween Ends. In an interview with Empire magazine in the October 2022 issue, Green cited the 1980 comedy My Bodyguard as one of the 3 primary films he revisited before making Halloween Ends. The other 2 films on this list are John Carpenter's Christine, 1983, and Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker, 1981, from director William Asher. These latter 2 films are less unexpected as influences on Halloween Ends considering their basis in the horror genre, but My Bodyguard stands out as a unique title within the group. From Oscar-winning filmmaker Tony Bill, My Bodyguard is a family comedy and coming-of-age movie about a teenage boy named Clifford Peach, Chris Makepeace, who is targeted by bullies when he begins attending a new school in Chicago. The essence of the story is about Clifford discovering his inner strength and learning to stand up to his antagonists. Speaking specifically of My Bodyguard and Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker, David Gordon Green called them movies that affected me a lot as a kid. He added, "What I took emotionally from them, I'm trying to translate into a new form." Halloween Ends will be the conclusion to Green's trilogy of films about the central conflict between Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. John Carpenter famously kicked off the franchise in 1978, which led to multiple sequels, anthology stories and remakes in the ensuing years. However, Green's Halloween, 2018, was only a direct sequel to Carpenter's original, disregarding any events and plot points from the other entries in the series, effectively making them non-canonical. Green's 2018 entry was widely successful both critically and financially. On a reported production budget of $10 million, the film grossed a worldwide box office total of $255 million. Critics on Rotten Tomatoes praised Green's movie for wiping the slate clean after decades of disappointing sequels, ignoring increasingly elaborate mythology in favor of basic, yet still effective, ingredients. The middle chapter of Green's trilogy, Halloween Kills, did not perform as well as its predecessor, but still saw general success. Distributed with a hybrid release theatrically and streaming on Peacock, the film garnered $131 million worldwide against a production budget of $20 million. However, critical reviews were less favorable for Green's sequel, with a Rotten Tomatoes rating of 39%, compared to 79% for Halloween, 2018. Halloween Ends will arrive theatrically on October 14, 2022, with a simultaneous release on the streaming platform Peacock. Beverly Hills Cop 4 set photo confirms 2 original characters returning for Netflix sequel. Beverly Hills Cop is the latest classic franchise to hop aboard the revival bandwagon, with a 4th film titled Beverly Hills Cop, Axel Foley currently in production for Netflix. And with production underway, that means that photos from the set have started to appear online. And set photos mean casting confirmations that haven't been announced yet. In the case of Beverly Hills Cop 4, we already knew that Eddie Murphy and Paul Reiser were returning, but now we know that Judge Reinhold and John Ashton are back too. Reinhold plays Billy Rosewood, who started off as a junior police detective, while Ashton plays John Taggart, who was a detective sergeant in the old films. What their characters are up to in the new one is anyone's guess, as this photo just shows the actors chilling out on set in civvies rather than uniform. The premise of the 4th film sees Axel return to Beverly Hills to investigate possible corruption in the force after the death of an old friend. We got a photo of Eddie Murphy himself back in the titular role last week, showing that his arm is in a sling, suggesting that Axel is going to be a bit roughed up during his return. The 4th movie has been a long time in the making, partly due to it moving from distributor to distributor, but also due to Murphy insisting that the script be good enough. "As soon as the script comes together, I'm doing the movie, but I'm not doing it until the script is right," he said just last year. "Right now, there's a piece of the script, but that's it. But we've been trying to do Beverly Hills Cop 4 for over 10 years, and this is the closest we've got to it. We have directors who are smart and ready to go, and we have great ideas. It also looks like we've got the original producer who produced the original Beverly Hills Cop, Jerry Bruckheimer, involved again too." Dakota Johnson's Persuasion fails where Fire Island succeeded in adapting Jane Austen. Persuasion reviews have not been kind, and understandably so. The film, which sports an impressive cast of Dakota Johnson, Richard E. Grant, Henry Golding, Nikki Amuka Bird, and Cosmo Jarvis, has been slated by nearly everyone. Clips include the hyperbolic "everyone involved should be in prison," The Spectator, to flat-out awful, The Times. Almost all of these reviews cite the Fleabagification of Austen's posthumously published work as one of the film's biggest flaws. And it is to be sure that Johnson's constant winking at the camera does not invite you into her psychology, because there is no psychology to these characters. Instead, it's as if someone made a Pride and Prejudice Instagram filter and flattened it onto the somehow strikingly modern-looking cast. A viral tweet at Persuasion's trailer release aptly claimed, Dakota Johnson has the face of someone who knows what an iPhone is. Because the characters have no depth, the breaking of the fourth wall is a cheap gimmick to appeal to a generation of, probably, women who discovered Fleabag and felt seen, felt their inner turmoil given real weight. But, unfortunately, Persuasion is full of paper dolls. However, the most egregious error in the film's adaptation to this author is how it seeks to modernize themes that, in reality, always seem antiquated. It's hard to imagine, for the majority of us, our parents convincing us not to marry a man because he isn't distinguished enough. It isn't hard, however, to imagine a world in which inherited privilege, generational wealth, race, and the variety of other intersections of social, economic, and political identity impact the choice of a partner. Yet, Netflix's need to stick to the aesthetically pleasing Regency getup means it can't quite escape the dated confines of themes that could be easily transposed to modern times. In the introduction to a 1998 printing of the novel, literary scholar Gillian Bieber explains that Persuasion was a novel that sought to explore the varying ways, both overt and covert, in which women were pressured into performing certain duties, particularly marriage, by society. The outcome may have changed from the 1800s when Austen first penned Persuasion, but the pressures haven't. Women, trans women included, still have an imposed weight of expectation upon them that is impossible to carry. Be career women, be mothers, be mature, be demure, be devoted, be a girl boss. It is painful for any woman to simply be, to make her own choices as she navigates the world. In some countries, that choice is wrenched away. The overturning of Roe v. Wade continues to impact every facet of a woman's life, not just the choice to have an abortion. From getting chemotherapy to interstate travel, the world is shrinking at a drastic rate for women. But none of the suffocating fear or palpable sensation even as I write is felt in Persuasion. Instead, Persuasion makes you feel nothing but the kind of annoying indigestion that comes from knowing something so much better could have been made. In this way, Fire Island is a far more successful, arresting and deeply moving modern Austen tale. It transplants themes of otherness and cultural strictures from the rigidity of the Regency era to the contemporary homophobia that permeates culture, despite brands telling you otherwise during Pride Month, and blooms a beautiful film. By refusing to give up the easy symbolism of corsets and pageantry, Persuasion suffocates its resonant themes, and the film withers and dies before the first scene, mercifully, comes to a close only for you to remember there are 2 hours yet to go. In Persuasion, Austen writes, when pain is over, the remembrance of it often becomes a pleasure. Sadly, Netflix's adaptation renders this quote hollow. Riverdale stars Netflix movie Look Both Ways is an insulting sliding doors take on young womanhood. Within minutes of finishing Riverdale star Lily Reinhardt's new Netflix movie Look Both Ways, we clicked on Twitter and the tweet in our feed was the Huck magazine story, I was denied a life-saving abortion. It's part of a series, and in this one, a 28-year-old woman was forced to drive across state lines for an abortion that would save her life, ending what was a non-viable pregnancy. These stories are more and more common, so seeing it wasn't surprising. But seeing it, just after finishing Look Both Ways only served to solidify how remarkably, bafflingly unreal from reality, despite not taking place in some alternate universe, the movie is. In Look Both Ways, recent college graduate Nat Reinhardt is at a crossroads, and we see her two potential life stories play out, the sliding doors moment being the result of a pregnancy test. In one timeline she's pregnant, her baby daddy is her best friend Gabe, Danny Ramirez, an aspiring drummer. In the other, she isn't, and she moves to law with her best friend Kara, Aisha D, to pursue her dreams of working in animation. The problem, and it is a big one, is that you cannot watch this film without thinking about the fundamental shift in a woman's right to choose. The film is quick to moralize the sex Nat and Gabe have. They did everything right. They used a condom. They're the good kind of people who might accidentally get pregnant, not the reckless people who get pregnant willy-nilly, just in case you were ready to be unsympathetic to Nat. Reinhardt does a formidable job balancing Nat's reticence with the strange impulse she has to keep her child, but the whole film is dogged by, well, reality. In the timeline in which Nat is pregnant, which we'll call Timeline B, Gabe tells her I'm per your right to choose, a line which caused a visceral reaction on the part of yours truly. Abortion is never a potential option in stories that revolve around a surprise pregnancy, even Gilmore Girls. A Year in Life doesn't whisper the word abortion for 30-something Rory, and well before it was a mild eye roll of annoyance, now it's changed. The fact is that Nat doesn't have a choice. The state in which she lives is never named, probably on purpose, so as to avoid the political conversation that information would necessitate. Instead, the film focuses on the struggles of young motherhood, all the while supported, if slightly sarcastically, by her wealthy, or at least middle-class, parents. But what about the women who don't have rich parents and childhood homes to move back into? No, this film doesn't have to show the trials and tribulations of every young mother, just Natalie. Before women's rights and bodily autonomy were gutted, a viewer might have been able to forget about the real world and immerse themselves in the dual narratives of Natalie's possible lives. Now that's impossible, at least, for this writer, and it's insulting having to watch it play out, as if this huge shift hasn't happened, as if autonomy over the bodies of American women haven't been taken away. Surely, no matter what state Nat lives in, she's cognizant of this. Timeline A is no less insulting, though it is less visceral. Somehow, despite being a 22-year-old Gen Z woman, Nat has no idea she has to write a cover letter when she applies for her dream job. She stupidly asks, "So, what, do you just have to be rich to be an artist?" To which her friend flatly replies, "Yeah, America." These are revelations that all millennials and Gen Zers know to be true, and it's beyond fathomable that Natalie wouldn't. Yes, she would be frustrated, but the naivety with which she approaches these life lessons beggars belief. And yet, it all works out for her. In both timelines, spoiler alert, she gets what she wants. A successful career in animation, or at least the start of one. In timeline B, she confesses her love for Gabe, and in timeline A, she reunites with her dishy new beau Jake. In both, she is happy. It's as if the filmmakers don't want to make a judgment on whether a woman's life is better with or without children. Ignoring the socio-economic details that make Nat's timeline B life possible, we can imagine a world in which both timelines do make her happy. While unexciting, it's a fair enough ending, given the only person who should make that call is the person bearing the child. Unfortunately, we know that this isn't the world in which we live, and look both ways, strange blindness to this fact makes it off-puttingly uncanny. If you've read all this thinking I couldn't care less, is then fine, but Look Both Ways has nothing else to recommend it. Cheesy writing, a total lack of suspense, and no dramatic stakes whatsoever make it not only insulting but also boring. Hopefully someday someone will give Lily Reinhardt a role deserving of her talent. Her presence, her ease on screen, is one of the only things remotely positive about this film.